welcome back to My Best Friend's an Engineer. I'm Lexi.
And I'm Libby.
And today we are going to hear all about Libby's new job as a...
project engineer!
I was like, wait.
Project engineer in new product development.
Amazing. But first, before we get into that, and I'm very excited to ask all these questions, just like we did, I think it was last episode.
Mm-hmm.
You guys kind of heard about, the validation industry, and we're going to hear all about her industry today. But how was your week?
It was good. Okay, so a little background for the listeners. We recorded an awesome podcast episode, and we had technical difficulties, and so we're recording this on Monday. Typically our podcasts go live on Monday. And so I'm like, oh, hopefully we can reschedule with our guests because we had such good conversation. But other than that, my week is going well. I'm so excited for the 4th of July weekend because my two of my friends, it'll be their birthday on Friday. On Saturday, we're taking a big group of people, 40 people, are hopping on a bus and going to see Dave Matthews Band, in an outdoor venue.
So fun.
I know, and I ordered a really cute, set from Abercrombie that's, linen trousers that are white with blue palm trees, and then, a matching top that, ties.
So cute. You're adding to your collection.
I am. I can't wait to post an Insta with it. Okay, so we're doing that on Saturday. And then on Sunday, it's our friends. They have a daughter, and she's turning 3, so it is her golden birthday. So,
aww. And
then on the 4th of July, which is on Monday, we're doing something with Brett's family. So it's a packed weekend. I'm very excited. I am taking my first bit of PTO from my job. So we are about 2 months into the job, and I'm taking PTO on Friday and then on Tuesday. So I am so excited for a break.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
Yeah, it has been really kind of rough going into the office every single day when I was used to being 2 years in corporate, working from home. So yeah. I think it's been tough.
I was going to say, I don't know how. I mean, again, you and your time blocking, I was good for her because that transition would be so hard.
There were so many days, and there still are, that I'm I am on the brink of freaking out, but I don't because of time blocking and everything. But I also, on last week's episode, I talked about how I started using Notion. That has been so good. Using Notion has been so cool. I embedded my Google Calendar, and you can make to-do lists, and you can check off your to-do list and do all these things. So that has been an awesome tool that I've been utilizing as well.
Amazing. Yeah, I've been seeing those. But also your store is reopening.
Yes. Okay, so that's another exciting thing is that I've been working on my doing my website again. And oh my gosh, it is a bad habit, but a good habit of mine. When I get into doing something, for example, launching a website, I get tunnel vision for a day. I started on Saturday, I went to Starbucks and I started at 10 o'clock or something. And I was doing the website until 6 p.m. And then I was oh my God, I cannot do that. I can't just have tunnel vision work on something for however many hours straight. But yeah, I don't know. I'm so into it. I love it's so frustrating to learn website platforms, but then once I get over the learning curve and I know how to use it, I'm oh my God, I can do this and I can customize this and I can do this, and it's so fun. So
exciting. I can't wait to see all the products because you've been posting little pictures of the stickers and everything. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. So that'll go live on Friday, July 1st, and yeah, stay tuned for updates on that. But how was your week? I feel you have so many exciting stories to give to us since you just went to Nashville and it was your birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yes. So I also took I've taken PTO at this job before, but it's I haven't, the last time I think was St. Patrick's Day. So I feel it just has been forever. So I took Friday off. I went to the Johnny Cash Museum because my friends were kind of working a little bit in the morning. So that was so fun. But it was 8 of us total, and then I knew a few people that lived there, so met up with them. I do have crazy stories. So last night, I'm like, this is a good episode right after traveling because I'm interviewing you, and we got in at 3 a.m. last night. It took an hour to get our luggage, our flight was delayed, and then we did one of these. So we were at an Airbnb. We had to leave at 10. And so we have our luggage. My flight was at 10 p.m. initially, and then I got delayed. But we did this luggage stowaway. Like, it was like an Airbnb for luggage, kind of. So on Friday, we left our luggage because we couldn't check until 4. We left it at, like, a little clothing store on Broadway. So it was good. It was perfect walking distance. And then they were closed on Sunday. So we had to find a different place. So we left it at a gas station that did the same process. Yeah, like, I forgot what the name of the luggage company.
So it's like
called.
A service that they provide and they advertise like, hey, you can drop your luggage here, or did you ask the owners how to do it?
No, we just Googled it. I mean, it was like $1 per hour. Yeah, it was so convenient. But until so they said that the gas station closed at 9. So we get there at 8:15. They're closed. Okay.
With your luggage?
With my luggage. So, yeah.
I would be so nervous. I would be like, what do I do right now?
Yeah. So keep in mind, like, okay, I was like, okay, what do? I don't have my work laptop with me because I took Friday off and I didn't want to take it with me because I knew we would be leaving our luggage somewhere, and like, I just, the Airbnb, like, I, trust the Airbnb. It wasn't sketchy or anything, but I'm like, okay, just in case something happens, I don't want anything to get stolen or like broken into. The work laptop's taken. That's like my biggest fear. Mm-hmm. But so I didn't bring it. So that was awesome. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? I was like, I can't take a sick day because I can't lie. I would be so bad at lying. I'd be like, I'm sick. And then I'd be like, actually, I'm not. Let me tell you about my whole weekend to my boss. I'll be like, this is actually what happened. So I'm freaking out. So I'm like, okay. Like, clearly no one is in this gas station. Lights are on. No one's home. Literally. And I was like, why would you leave the lights on? But because it gave us hope when we were pulling up. We're like, oh, we're good.
False
we're good.
Hope.
Wrong. We were not. So I go next door. So we're freaking out for a second. And I'm like, okay, we have a few options. Like, and then my boyfriend, it was just us left. And he had his work laptop in there. So I was thinking, okay, so we were going through all the options. I said either we get on our flight home and then we ship like the luggage. Like, I asked my friends to ship it or whatever. That was one, but he couldn't because of his work laptop. Because I'm like, okay, if at least I can log on in the morning. Another one is he stays here because they opened apparently at 6:30. Who knows if they were lying or not, because that's what the door said. So I was like, okay, maybe you stay here, you get a hotel, and you just log on in the morning. I have to take the flight home so I can log on, and like, you bring my luggage back. So it was just like so many options. I was just like, this is like unreal. So I go next door though. I was like, okay, let me go chit chat. Let me use my Midwestern chattiness.
Midwestern charm.
I was like, let me see what I can do. So I go next door and like, my boyfriend's, he's breaking out. He's like so frustrated.
I think I would be on the brink of tears after a long weekend in Nashville.
Yeah, and he was just like freaking out, not being helpful, and I was like, okay, whatever, I'm done. Not talking to you right now.
You're like, I'm gonna go next door.
Yeah, so I scurry over next door, and I walk in, and it's this girl. I think she's like about our age. So I talk to her. I tell her, I'm like, I don't know if you know the person who owns the store. Maybe there's like a property manager or something. So she calls him. He answers, and he gets there in 20 minutes, like to open the store. Oh my gosh! I was like, thank goodness that I was like not freaking out. I was like, okay, it's like okay. Like my boyfriend
using your engineer problem solving
brain. I was like, oh, you're so lucky you're dating me.
Yeah.
But no, so they come and we're like, okay, thank you. So we gave them extra cash. Yeah. And then we were explaining, okay, we're going to the airport. We have like a flight in an hour. We didn't. It got delayed literally as we were on the way there. I was like unreal because we were like freaking out. Like, are we gonna make it? So I kind of wish we knew before that we weren't. It was gonna, we would have some time to chill. But so the guy who owned the gas station drove us to the airport, and I was like, oh my
gosh.
Yeah, so we gave him another, like, extra $40 for that. Mm-hmm. But I am just shocked, and we made it. There was no line in security, like, not busy, but... Yeah,
I can tell you were talking about this story, your shoulders are like raising, you're like getting stressed just talking about it. And
because I was like, oh my god, it's just like the work. I feel like it's really not that, it doesn't matter. Like my boss, I just realized he's going to be out of office today too. So like wouldn't have been a huge deal. But I'm like, I feel like we're young and we don't want to mess up. And then they would have been like, oh my god, you're so stupid and young. Like look up the times at the gas station, like confirm it. Like I'm not saying we didn't do anything wrong. That was so I was like, we just had to just go explore Nashville. But yeah, so no line, and then the flight got delayed. We get to Midway. Like over an hour it took to get our luggage. We're sitting there, and then I was like, can we just leave? I was like asking him, I was like, do you have your work laptop in your backpack? I will come pick it up. But it was under his name, and he like wouldn't be able to come like go get it. We just had to wait. I was like, whatever, we're waiting. So that was my weekend. I had fun though. I liked it.
Was the store manager like mad when he like you called him and he showed up in 20 minutes?
Not really. He was very nice because I think he could tell that because like on the phone with the girl that was calling him, I was like, please tell him I'm so sorry. We will pay accordingly for his time. Like we have a flight. This is why we're freaking out. So I think it was not my Midwestern charm. It was my really scared of not logging on to work next day. Just like so sorry. Yeah. I was like, I am so sorry. I know this is completely our fault, but whatever you need, I was like, let me know. Yeah, and I was like, thank you so much. Like she was working at a store, and I was like, okay, pick whatever you want, and I'll buy it for you. Like for calling, she was so nice. She's like everyone in Nashville is so nice as well. So like that was very helpful. But so that was a little adrenaline rush. So today was just, I posted a TikTok, and one of the song recommendations was Manic Monday, and I was like, this is just a Manic Monday. You were like, remind me. I was like, I want to just, oh my gosh. And then, we were having trouble with Riverside, our recording, when I'm, like, walking out of the plane. I was like, oh, God.
You're like, one thing after another.
Yeah, so I'm like, if anyone who's listening has any recommendations for how to avoid Riverside technical things. Yeah. Because I like it because it uploads from everyone's device. But I'm like, in this situation, if it deletes, like, if someone doesn't upload it or take the time, I'm like, there has to be like a backup. I'm like, come on, Riverside.
I know. I'm hoping that I reached out to the support, and I'm hoping that we can recover that episode because we had such a good conversation about all things.
Yeah, it was
chemical engineering and sexual abuse in the industry and like all this stuff. I hope we don't lose that, but if not, we'll have to reschedule.
Yeah. So that's my spiel. Basically, I do like Nashville though. It was really fun. Have you been?
I have, and I think I had like a good experience.
I remember. I went
for fall break.
Yeah,
I went for fall break, and I had a good day. Like, I think we were there like one too many days because we had fall break, so we left Thursday night from school. We were there Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night, and we went out all 3 nights, and we went out all of the days. And by Saturday night, like, it was just no bueno. Like, I don't remember getting in the Uber. I don't remember getting out of the Uber. My purse and my shoes were on the lawn when I woke up the next morning, like, with my wallet in my purse. Like, it was no bueno situation. So I definitely need to go back and, like, redeem myself in the show.
We should. No, that's so funny. Look at us. We're so relatable. See, we're professional and fun.
We've grown so much.
No, that's so funny. Yeah, I knew it'd be long days, so I was just sticking with my Michelobes. I was like, I'm not gonna be a nuisance for anyone. Yeah, I'm not gonna be a nuisance. I was like, no way, Jose. I'm gonna dance to some live music and pull it together. So it was good. But we have to go back and we can resume your time there. But
I know. Yeah. I think the tipping point was in I think it's called Tootsie's or something. And
okay, I saw it. It looked really cute. We didn't go in.
Okay, I went to Tootsie's and I had what were they called? Like French toast shots.
Oh.
No bueno. That was the downfall of the whole night.
It was probably because they sound sweet.
Yes. And I was like, oh, give me 5.
Yeah, it's like candy. It's like little candy.
It's like candy.
Yeah. And I was telling you, so we talked about like the Wisconsin, or I can't remember if it was on the episode that we just lost, but the $7 like all you can drink in Wisconsin thing.
Yes.
Insane. Yeah. So they had like apple pie shots that were like candy. I was like, okay, give me one for the taste. And then I was like, I know what's going to happen.
You were like, back to my Michelobes.
Yeah. So, no, but... So, yeah. So that was my weekend. That was my night. So it sounds like we've had very fun times. But I'm excited for your busy weekend. That'll be fun. I'm excited.
I know. I'm excited for that. Any plans for 4th of July?
So my friend got a boat in Chicago, so I think the Playpen area. I've never done that, and I'm excited. So we'll see. I want to get like a cool picture for Instagram. I'm like, I told my friends, I was like, we need to get 0.5 pictures. Get the whole city in the bag.
The angles.
I was like, I need the outfits, but no, I'm excited. So we have that on the 3rd, and then he buys like he bought $600 worth of fireworks for next weekend.
Casual.
Yeah, but it's, yeah, I know, but it's like we always do 4th with our high school friends, and like his parent, like we hang out with his family. Like, his parents would be on the boats where, you know, we love doing the 4th with everyone, and they always get so many fireworks. Yeah. But I'm like concerned because he lives in Old Town, so they're very close together. And I'm like, where are we gonna shoot? I was like, are they little poppers? $600 of poppers? Because I don't know where we're gonna be throwing these off. Yeah, I was like, where? From where? So I don't know. I'm a little like nervous about it, but we'll see. But I'm excited. So I'm excited to talk about it next week. We can talk about our weekends.
Yeah. Okay. Well, stay tuned for that. And I think now we can get into your guys' tea of the week. So every week, or every time before we do an episode, we post on our Instagram story a question box for tea of the week so you guys can share your updates with us for us to share on the podcast. Sorry, I think that was like a tongue twister. But anyway, Jessie says that she passed her PE. Congratulations. That is such a big accomplishment. Pat yourself on the back for that one. That is amazing. And then Kayla started her first job at an amazing company as a manufacturing engineer. Congratulations, another amazing 5-star, moment in your engineering career, and that is not a small feat. So definitely like take yourself out to like a nice night on the town, getting a nice dinner or drinks or something, because that's a lot of hard work that is, paid off with your job offer.
Yes, amazing. Okay, so this person said, my research presentation went really well and my professors liked my graphs. I love that because we love doing our little research presentations. Excel. That's awesome. And Excel, we love that. Awesome. I'm glad to hear it went well. And then Bruna said, I'm starting my new job next week with a 55% salary increase. Insane. Yeah. Congratulations. I love to hear that. That's amazing. But also there was one more that
we love it.
Yeah, we also just got one more halfway done with summer physics. So I wanted to read that one because we love talking about physics on this podcast, I feel like. So congrats to that person. Halfway done.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Oh,
amazing.
I can't imagine doing physics over the summer. Okay, well anyway, I think before we get into the episode, just a quick few reminders. Be sure to share this podcast on your socials and tag us. We love, when you guys share it and you're saying that you like the episodes and stuff like that. That's awesome. Be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a written review. And when you leave a 5-star rating review on whatever platform, make sure you take a screenshot and submit it in our Google form, which is in the show notes, and then also in our Instagram bio.
Yes. I am just loving the Facebook group. I want to start something where we post like maybe screenshots of what people post in it, because I feel like if people don't listen to all the episodes, they might not like see the Facebook group, so if they only follow our Instagram. So I want to start that. But we have so many things, a list of things
so
we want to do.
And oh my god, and wait, quick shout out. Happy late Women in Engineering Day. We
yes.
IG for that.
Yeah. That did really well. I was like, okay.
It popped off. Awesome. You guys loved that. You guys were sharing.
Good. I'm happy. I was like, I don't know which little background to use, but I was like, whatever. Yeah. But awesome. All right. Well, I can't wait to hear all about your role. Should we get into it?
Let's get into it. Let's do it.
So your title is Project Engineer 2.
That's correct.
Do you want to give a little overview about what you do in a day-to-day role, maybe also what industry you're in, just to give some background info for people that aren't too familiar?
Yes, of course. So I work at a company that manufactures power tools, and high level, what that means is basically if you need to go to the store, for example, Home Depot, and you're doing a little project and you need a drill, a brap drill, you might pick up a product that is from my company. They make anything that like the heavy duty job site worker would need, so it's not just drills. I specifically work in the air movement department. So,
okay.
Air movement is under lighting and lifestyle, and in our little group, lighting and lifestyle is consisted of, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but system enhancement, which is kind of like radios, lighting, which can be anything from like a giant light that you might see driving by a construction site at night, to like something that a mechanic might use to like do work underneath a car. And then I'm in air movement, which is like vacuums, dust extractors, fans, blowers, things like that. And kind of the way that engineering is split up at my company is you can take a couple paths, but it's really, you can go down the electrical engineering path, which you start off being like an electrical engineer 1, electrical engineer 2, and then senior electrical engineer, and then maybe up into management. You can take a similar path for mechanical engineering, so it's like mechanical engineer 1, 2, senior 1, 2, and then like management or whatever. And then there's like a third main category in like the new product development, or actually I think all across my companies, but it is the project engineer path. And that starts off as project engineer 1, project engineer 2, and then you move into what they call a project leader. So it's the same responsibilities, it's just like a different name within the hierarchy. So project leader 1, project leader 2, senior project leader, and then management. So I'm kind of like in that project leader role. If I had to describe like the responsibilities, it's really similar to being like a project manager of a project. So that was like my previous role. I was in project management, and the way it's described at my company is like the project engineer or project leader is involved in all of the decisions across the cross-functional teams. So we have to be driving conversations with the electrical engineers, with the mechanical engineers, with the regulatory engineers, with the reliability engineers, with legal, with marketing, to get a project or a new product from like intent or like imagination all the way to like the consumer's hands. So that was kind of like a long-winded answer, but that's kind of like what my role is. So day to day, I'm working with like all these cross-functional teams and just making sure there's like constant communication. And if there's something that like we're talking about that kind of smells funny to me, or if we're like talking about, for example, like taking a product and like, I don't know, we're analyzing test data or something like that, and I think like maybe it's not lining up based on my engineering background, then I'm supposed to be basically that voice that raises the questions, kind of, because I feel like sometimes when you're working on a product, you can be so like pigeonholed or like put the blinders on, you like have one thing you're trying to get done, and the project engineer is supposed to be there to be like, oh, poke holes and, spot, where we could maybe improve, things like that.
Amazing. That was an awesome overview. So I have a lot of questions that are going to stem from that. So I think we're going to start general and then I'll get more specific. I think that would be a good way to go. So you are a project engineer 2. I know you came into the company starting in the second role or the level 2 role, but can you talk about the differences between maybe a project engineer 1 versus a project engineer 2 and how your kind of responsibilities differ as you get upper in levels?
Like go through that
yeah.
Go through the hierarchy or whatever.
Poorly said, but you know what I mean.
I know what you're putting down. Yeah, so any role within my company, like from what I'm understanding, I'm also only 2 months into this role, so I could be completely wrong, but from what I understand, any entry-level engineer starts off as like a level 1. So someone who graduates from college might earn a role of, like, for example, mechanical engineer 1 or project engineer 1. From my understanding and based on feedback from other people, it sounds like people in the project engineer 2 like realm typically have a few years of experience under their belt, or they have been promoted from working a few years in that level 1 position. Another thing to note is that like the paths that you can take at my company are not like mutually exclusive. So just because I'm a project engineer now doesn't mean that like I could be a mechanical engineer too, or senior mechanical engineer. And same with people in the electrical engineering or mechanical engineering realms, like they can transition over. My company is really awesome in that like whatever career goals you have or like experience that you want to gain, they're very open about like being like really transparent. Like if you're like, hey, I want to be I don't know if they would let me be an electrical engineer because I don't have an electrical engineering degree, but it has been made known to me that if I ever have any interest in being in another department or working on other products or going into a mechanical engineer role or going into marketing or going into reliability or anything like that, like all of those options are open to me, which I think is really nice. But as far as like the hierarchy of the path that I'm currently going down, it doesn't seem like the responsibilities really change much. Like you're still getting projects and running them from start to finish. I think maybe it's more like the expectation, like as you move up in the hierarchy, you are expected to like not need as much help from your manager on like some of the things that you need to handle. Like right now, especially since I'm 2 months in, if I have a conflict or I don't know how to do something, like immediately I tell my manager and I'll say like, hey, just letting you know, I'm working through this. If I need your help or if I need your advice, I'll let you know. But I think it's kind of expected that as you move up, you're not, I don't want to say burdening your manager because that's just communication. You're not burdening somebody. But if you know what I mean, like you're not constantly giving them updates about like, and asking them for advice on what's going on.
Definitely. So they kind of just trust you a little bit more just because you're more familiar with, being in the industry and kind of dealing with these issues is what it sounds like. Mm-hmm. So you talked about someone, coming in right out of school and they started as a project engineer 1. And you said after a few years they get promoted to, project engineer 2. Do you know, I know you've only been there for 2 months, but do you know how long that promotion how many years or months or what kind of milestones they have to hit to get that promotion?
Yeah, I'm not sure if, I'm not really sure if there's like a, I guess, quote unquote checklist that their manager is kind of like mentally keeping, a running tally of the things that someone is accomplishing before they're going to that next role. But for example, I know that another thing, I guess, is kind of interesting about my role or my company is everyone's really young, really, really young. So everybody that I work with is pretty much in their 20s. There's a few people in their 30s and 40s, but a majority of my team is really young. And there are people on my team who are mechanical engineer 2, and they graduated in 2019 or 2020. So they started with the company right out of college, worked a year and a half to 2 years in that one role, and then they got promoted. I don't know I've never asked them what they might have accomplished to get there. I think it could just be time and tenure, they were in that role for a year and a half and then their manager felt they could, get a pay raise and a title promotion, whatever it may be. But that's kind of the timeline or I guess realm of age that people are when they move into that 2 position.
Awesome. So you also mentioned that your group is called the Lighting and Lifestyle, which I thought that's interesting, the lifestyle, because I feel lifestyle, it makes me think of home decor or something I don't know, not something engineering based. But can you kind of give a few more examples of other groups that, your company has?
Yeah, and I actually just remembered when we were talking another part of the lifestyle, I said system enhancement, which is radios, lighting, air movement, and then there's also gear. So my company produces workwear, and so that's another realm that's kind of interesting that engineers are involved with that you might not think engineers are involved with.
Wait, yeah. Okay, I love that. Wait, going off that real quick. So if you talked about how your company is very open to allowing you to experience other roles and departments, would you ever be interested in start going and working in the gear team?
Oh, totally. And the I think there's 3 main project engineers or project leaders, and 2 of them are women. So and one of them is my mentor, and I told her, I was I could totally geek out on like being in the workwear department. Like I think I have the experience with like working with Xena workwear and like and just being passionate about finding solutions for women in the industry that I would love. I think that would be awesome. So maybe, but other departments, there's like drilling and fastening. There is like a department that deals, I believe there's a department that deals with cutting, but I don't know what they're actually called. There's like an outdoor power equipment department, so they do like lawnmowers and like leaf trimmers or trimmers. What are they called? String trimmers. Blowers.
I'm like I don't know what they're called.
Like those things, they're a little stick with like a little thing on the end.
No, I totally know it. I don't know the name, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And then there's other like main departments that are coming to mind are like batteries. So my company produces batteries to power all of these tools, and then there's a charger department. I feel like I'm hitting them all. I'm definitely not hitting them all, but yeah, basically anything that you can think of that deals with tools, there's a department and a team of engineers. So my company is like very engineering based, which is pretty cool. Like the majority of people that work at the company are engineers, no matter what role they're in. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you have a lot of different groups you can go into if you want to explore some other options. Totally. So because they have that, that amount of groups, how big would you say your company is? Do you know?
I don't know like an exact number, but there's roughly like 500 people in the location that I work with, which is crazy and so different from my last role, because my last role was like a big company and a well-known company. I worked for Toshiba, so I'm fine saying it now that I don't work there anymore. Mm-hmm. But the location that I was in while I was at that role, there was only maybe like 80 people in the office and then like maybe 20 shop guys. So I knew everybody knew me. I'd walk by, say hi to everybody, be like, oh, how's it going? Like, how are your projects? How are your jobs? This company, it's like so different because there's so many people. The way that it's laid out is that pretty much everything is on one floor, and then there's like a tower that has like 4 floors that has like elevators to go up to all these floors and stuff. Like, it's just a lot of people and way different from my first role.
So how would you say, compared to your first role, how was it transitioning to a company like this where you're in office, you're dealing with a lot more people, you don't have that kind of camaraderie maybe? Do you have any kind of suggestions for people going through that same transition?
Yeah, going from working in the office every day to working from home to going to the office every day is so tough. So tough just in that, like, I am the type of personality where, like, if I talk to somebody, typically I'm very animated. Like, I seem like I have a lot of personality. I'm really outgoing. But then as soon as that conversation ends, I, like, shut down because that took, like, so much energy, even though that's, like, my normal personality. So being in the office is tough because you can't really shut down. Like, working from home, you get out of a tough meeting and sometimes you can go to your bedroom and cry if you need to.
I was just going to say that. If you didn't say that, you could just cry after.
You could just cry and nobody will know. Or, like, if you need to stare at a wall for 5 minutes and completely zone out, you can do that. And it's not really going to affect your work performance because you're working from home. Whereas, like, in an office, a 5-minute break might be asking somebody about how their weekend was, which obviously that is great and a great perk about working in the office, but it is tough for those personality types such as mine where, like, you're constantly talking all day long and, like, being happy and, like, enthusiastic to be at your workplace and, like, not that I'm not enthusiastic, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like, can't I just, like, not be happy for a second? And then it's like, if you aren't happy, it's like, oh, I noticed you had body language that seemed kind of closed off, or like, yeah. I noticed that you, like, seemed kind of down in this meeting, like, what's going on? And I'm like, nothing. I'm on all the time, that it's hard to be on. I don't know. So yeah. That is, like, a big challenge. I guess my advice, I've been trying to mitigate that by, like, especially with the warmer weather, going on walks, like, just around my building at lunchtime. Another thing that's, like, tough, but, like, not tough, like, I love it, is that, like, since everybody is so young in my group, everybody's always, like, there are picnic benches outside. Everybody's always, like, going outside and eating lunch together and, like, having conversations during lunch, which obviously is amazing. Like, sometimes when I worked from home, I would feel so lonely because there was nobody to, like, eat lunch with. But, just trying to find that happy medium of, I keep a book on my desk at work, and some days I'm like, hey, thanks for the invite to lunch, but I think I'm just going to read or something, like, just not do anything during my lunch break.
Yeah, definitely. And I totally get what you're saying when people comment on, like, the body language at the office, because I feel like that's something we do talk about. It's, they have good intentions. They're just making sure everything's all good. But again, you need a few minutes. And again, we talked about how, you can be a very qualified engineer, but a lot of the professional world is being social, being like having that personality. And we talked about that, I remember, like on our work travel trip. So, but awesome. Okay, so I wanted to also talk about you're working with the different individuals on a project. So first, can you let us know how many projects you kind of have to handle at once?
Yeah, so right now I have 2 main projects. And my projects deal mostly with like developing kind of like, I guess, 3 realms of, or fields or groups. I don't know, whatever. 3 major ways that I can run a project. One would be a brand new product that has never been to market. One would be taking a product that is already on the market and maybe making it more robust. So for those who don't know, robust is basically like making it more durable or tough. So imagine taking, like, I don't know, like your iPad and kicking it down a flight of stairs and thinking, like, how can we make the product not break when it falls, like, down the stairs? That's just an example of, like, a way you might want to make a product more robust. And then the third kind of realm is my company launches products to the entire world. So they may first start off by launching the product just in the United States, and then they may need a team of engineers to launch it to the rest of the world. And that really just involves kind of with what we were talking about on your episode last week, with dealing a lot with the regulatory and the validation or the reliability engineers, whatever the roles are called, and just making sure if there are any like requirements in these other regions that you're, satisfying the requirements, if there's any testing that these other regulatory agencies may require, that you're getting the testing done. So those are kind of like the 3 main ways I can run a project. Right now I'm currently running 2 projects. I don't know like if there's a limit to how many I can run, but for example, a lot of the other PLs or project engineers run like anywhere from 4 to 6 at a time. And these projects last anywhere from 2 years to 6 years. So I think right now I'm doing good with the 2 on my plate. It's like, it's a lot of work just to not only like get used to a new company, but also just making sure I'm doing everything correctly and asking everybody so many questions. But my manager did actually ask me today. He was like, what do you think about like once these 2 kind of, you have a plan for them, we get you another project? And I'm like, I was like, yes, sounds peachy. It's like,
you're like, oh my god, I would love nothing more.
I know, I was like, oh my god, like add another 7 hours of work to my day, sign me up. No, but that was sarcastic.
But I like that you are answering my questions before I ask them, because that's one thing I wanted to ask. How many projects do you think you're going to have to handle at once? But so going off of that, so other PLs have to deal with maybe 4 to 6. You just mentioned how you work with these different teams or different individuals. So you have to talk to the electrical engineer, you have to talk to the mechanical engineer, you have to talk to the reliability, regulatory, the marketing team. So when you're working on these different projects, are you working with the same individuals from each team, or do you have to kind of reach out to like 2 different electrical engineers, say?
Yeah, it really varies based on like how a particular group manager wants to like load up their resources, but typically I'll be working with the same individuals. In each department at my company, there are, since I'm in like the lighting and lifestyle, but I'm specifically dealing with new products, so I'm in new product development. So within all of the cross-functional teams, typically, there's like, the groups are also sectioned out that way. So like there is probably like 5 or 6 new product development regulatory engineers that work in lighting and lifestyle that I could be working with. So the cross-functional teams, it's I would say like relatively tight-knit. Like for example, on marketing, there's only 2 individuals that handle air movement. So there's really only 2 marketing people that I'll ever be working with that are also like working on all these things at the same time. So there is some overlap. It is kind of nice not always getting the same like different individuals, because then you kind of know how somebody works. but can also be confusing if you're talking about one thing and they think you're talking about the other project, but you're actually talking about a different project, and then you have to be like, wait, I'm talking about this one, not this one. So, yeah, just try and keep things straight with everybody.
Definitely. Oh my gosh, my throat just... But, so off of that, I wanted to ask, if you do have to deal with multiple individuals for different projects, how are you managing that? How are you handling that? Like, I feel like for someone coming into this role and just listening to you say that you need to talk to 7 different individuals for a project, I feel like that could be very overwhelming for some people. So what have you done to kind of handle this? You're coming to a new company as well. You're meeting all these people. Give us some tips. Give us a tea.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's been really tough and such a learning curve. I'm really lucky in that I have a really blunt boss, which can be good and bad. It's bad because he's not emotional and I am completely emotional. So he's very much like a tell it how it is. Like he will be like, you didn't talk to these people, you need to talk to these people. So I really appreciated his guidance in that, like, especially as I'm starting to get to know the individual team members and like the processes that like my role has to go through to get a product across the finish line. He's been very like, this is all the stuff you have to do, now go do it. The way I've been managing that is that my role, I'm in Microsoft Project, which is a scheduling software, essentially like 4 hours a day. And anytime I build out a schedule for what I think it will take to get maybe a task or a couple tasks done, I will meet with like those individual mechanical or electrical engineers, the manufacturing team, reliability people, like all individually, and be like, hey, do you agree with what I think it will take? If not, what do you think we need to do? So a lot of conversations about like, hey, this is what I think. Do you agree? Which can be very stressful because like I was actually kind of venting to Brett about it the other day. It's like anytime I make a change or make a decision, I have to ask everybody, do you agree? Which actually I don't think is a bad thing. Like, are you aligned? Like, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Yeah, and I think that's like literally why this company is so successful is because they stress communication. Like you cannot move forward until everybody agrees with the plan. Because if people don't agree with the plan, then you're going to have, like, delinquent team members who don't want to get things done because they don't agree. So, not dissing that. It's definitely stressful. I guess advice, I don't know. I've been kind of, I feel like drowning, but I don't want to be dramatic and say that I'm drowning because I'm not. Like, I did ask my boss today. I was like, hey, I'm, like, 2 months in. Like, am I meeting your expectations? And, is this like the type of person you thought would fulfill this role, like all this stuff. He said I am, so I clearly am doing something right. But yeah, it's been a really big learning curve. Essentially, I just have to like ask everybody every single day, hey, are you still on track to get this done? Is there anything I can do to provide help? Do you have any problems that you are stuck solving? Like it's just very communication based.
Definitely. Which is a good skill to have. Why is my voice freaking out?
I know, I feel like
I just choked a
little bit. Yeah, good skill to have, but
remember, communicate, don't choke while you're talking.
You're like,
that's good. Sorry. Okay. So I was just saying that I think that's a very good and important skill to focus on, and I think those comments are really good. What you were asking your boss, because again, I think we all have been stressing, like even people we've interviewed, is just being transparent. Communication is key in these types of engineering roles, and I feel like a lot of engineers are very just communication and just straightforward. But amazing. So you talked about Microsoft Project. Can you talk about a few other softwares you might use, or is that kind of your main one that you focus on?
Yeah, so I'm mainly using Microsoft Project and then Excel on my day-to-day. We have like a drawing management software that I have to know how to use to like access drawings. So if I have to communicate with the manufacturing team or other cross-functional teams and provide a drawing, I'm still like learning how to use that software. So a lot of times like I've been leaning on the mechanical engineers being like, hey, can you pull this drawing for me? But like eventually the expectation is that I can go into that drawing management software, search the part number, find the correct drawing revision, pull the correct piece part drawing, and use that to get things done. So the drawing management software, I don't know if this is exclusive to my company or if this is a universal software, but it's called Team Center, and that's also the software that the mechanical engineers use to update drawings. The main responsibility for updating component drawings is on the mechanical engineers and the mechanical designers who design the products. Another software that we use is, again, I don't think it's specific to my company, but it's called AX, and it's the inventory / supply planning software. I think it's the way that my company reflects demand for certain products so that the manufacturing team knows how many they need to produce. But I'm not too sure on that one. I'm still learning how to use that one. So those would be the three. So a supply and demand software, a drawing management software, and then four. A project schedule management software, and then a Excel. So something to use with numbers.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting, and I feel we don't really talk about the softwares we use in industry, because all I use is Excel. It's a regular one that, compared to all those, so it's always interesting hearing, just how people have to work with different things. But awesome. One thing I really wanted to ask, so one of the departments you work with is marketing, and I feel everyone is kind of familiar with what the other types of teams are, electrical engineers with the mechanicals and regulatory. Mm-hmm. How do you work with the marketing team? What is your interaction with them?
Yeah, so the marketing job or marketing role at my company is really cool. I think if I were in marketing, this is the type of job that I would want. And I've actually heard feedback from people saying that sometimes engineers go into the marketing role. And I don't blame them. It's a pretty cool job. So basically since my company produces products for tradesmen, so electricians and plumbers and millwrights and contractors and all these people that are in the heavy duty or trades industry, the marketing role will go out and first, before a project kicks off, they do all this research. And they say okay, what products are these people or individuals using in their role day to day? What because every tradesman, if they have a tool, a lot of times they'll tweak it to customize it to what their need is. So the marketing team will be oh my god, this is just an example, but oh my god, this individual has a little handheld vacuum, and they took a piece of paper and they taped it around the end to make a cone so that they could vacuum up a larger area or something. That's probably a stupid example, but they'll go out and they'll notice these little things that an individual might be doing to make the tool work better for their job. And then they'll bring that research back and be okay, we've identified a really big opportunity for our company to fill a need in the market. So then the marketing team, basically they do all this research. They figure out how many hours a day an individual might be using a product, what temperature conditions, what realms of the world or realms of the country that these people are using a product in, what individual, what job sites, what does the job site look like that a person is using this product on. And then they present it to the new product development team, which is the team I'm on, and they're make this. And then throughout the whole process, as we're I think last episode you kind of talked about how you go through the IQ, CQ, OQ, or the three-step.
IQ, IQ, OQ, PQ.
Yeah, so we kind of have a gating process that is similar when you're developing products, where you develop it once, then you do testing, and then you identify ways to improve it. So then you make changes, and then you do testing again, and then you're oh shoot, that's still not what we want. So make changes, do testing again. So every time we make a change, the marketing team basically will bring out these samples to the field and have contractors be hey, can you test this out today and see if you like it? Give us feedback, what breaks for you, what feels awkward, what doesn't have enough range of motion, they get all this data so that when we do release a product to market, we've basically like done all these experimentations to like make sure people actually like it, who are going to be ultimately buying the product. And then, the marketing team will keep an eye on like retail sites and see the reviews that are coming in. And if we're getting like a consistent review on a complaint or something like that, they'll bring it back to the engineering teams and be like, hey, this is an issue that our users are seeing, fix it. And yeah, so it's pretty cool to interact with them. They very much are involved in the entire process, and they're essentially like the VOC, or the voice of the customer, while we're developing a product.
Wait, that's so interesting. I'm so glad I asked about that, because I was saying like marketing, I feel like you'd be very good in like a marketing type of role, but that is so interesting because you think of marketing as their focus is marketing the product and like doing that, but they're like little detectives going to sites and seeing, and getting these ideas. That's awesome.
I know, and I think it's really valuable too in like, specifically in like the power tool company, where we're producing power tools for like these tradesmen who, I mean, think of an electrician. They could be an electrician for 50 plus years. Like, they could have so many years of being an electrician under their belt. And that's where I feel like sometimes you see the stereotypical response from trades guys for opinions on like engineers, like, oh, you guys don't even know how the product works. Like, you just make this product and it doesn't even work well. Like, you don't even use it in the field. You have no, like, that's kind of that's kind of how our marketing team is like filling that gap. Is it's like, okay, well, we are like in our 20s, or, like younger engineers who obviously we aren't electricians, or obviously we aren't plumbers. We're not using these every day, but we're trying to provide those individuals solutions to make their jobs easier. So that's really where like, that's so important that the marketing team gets like that feedback, because obviously we don't want to produce a product that is ultimately going to get in the hands, I keep using the example, but of an electrician, and they're like, this is useless, like, then Definitely. We wouldn't make any money.
Yeah, it just wastes everyone's time. Yeah. Everyone gets angsty. But awesome. Okay, so thank you for talking about the specifics of the role. I wanted to get into some general questions too.
Okay.
So a person in your type of role, product engineer, what are some challenges you've experienced or noticed in the role so far, and how have you been trying to handle those challenges?
Yeah, honestly, some of the biggest challenges that I didn't expect or anticipate was like the different personality types. And I think that just comes with like working at a company that has like so many more people than what I was used to before. I work at a company also that encourages like transparency, and again, like I've been saying, communication, which is excellent, and the reason why they're able to deliver such high quality products. But it's been kind of like an interesting transition for me to get used to, because people are very, very blunt. And I am just a little emotional girl who like takes everything personally. So it has been a very big challenge for me to like take very harsh constructive criticism on like these projects where I'm trying to be like the leader. I'm trying to be like, hey guys, I know what's going on, like follow me, let's figure this out. Like, and for someone in a meeting to be like, no, that's wrong, that is a really stupid way that you phrased it, or like you are completely wrong in what you're saying, like obviously it's productive to the goal that we're all trying to accomplish, but it just like took me so aback. I was like the first time someone said, like, my company is really big in creating PowerPoints for every single meeting and like agendas. I think we talked about it in our episode about how to run a more effective meeting, but I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to electrical engineering and like PCBAs and like capacitors and resistors, and like, so I'm trying to sit there and make a presentation asking questions that will like pose good conversations. And one of the electrical engineers was like, well, that question isn't even relevant to what we're doing, and it's honestly quite stupid that it's on the PowerPoint. And I'm sitting there and I'm like,
oh my gosh.
Thank you for your feedback.
Oh my god. See, and that's kind of frustrating though, because again, it's good to be transparent, but it's always wow.
You're so heated that you just can't even get the words out.
I'm not even like talking that much in this episode, and I still can barely ask these questions. Okay. So I'm just saying, I think we've talked about this before. It's all about how you say something, and you can say something professionally and efficiently, but that just I would be in the same feels, honestly. I'd be like sad. I'd be like, sorry, you didn't like my stock picture of my capacitor. Like,
I know.
It's not relevant.
Like, and it's so interesting because since my company is so big on like being transparent and like professional development, we're reading, like, we have a book club. I think I mentioned it a few episodes ago, but my book club is reading this book called Crucial Conversations. And it just talks about how, like, when you're in a group setting and a crucial conversation comes up, and a crucial conversation is when there's, like, conflict in the meeting, automatically someone usually will get defensive. And so that is something that, while it is so, like, shocking to deal with, and it is, like, such a culture shock to me and, like, something I've never had to deal with in my professional career, I almost feel like I'm excited that I'm, like, getting put in these situations because I'm like, oh, like, it is making me, like, more tough, first of all, like, building more character, but also, like, I'm able to really, I have to pause, take emotion out of it, and just ask questions. Like, be very inquisitive, be very blunt, take all emotion out of it, like, it's just a very interesting dynamic that I'm not used to before. Yeah, that's, like, been one of the biggest challenges. And the person isn't saying, oh, that's dumb. They're not directing that towards the work that I'm doing, if that makes sense. They're directing it for, like, the point of the conversation to be like, hey, guys, this isn't actually what the point of this meeting is about. It's actually about this, and the way that's phrased is not correct. So I agree. Yeah. They probably could have, like, gave me feedback in a little bit better way, worded it a little bit more professionally, but yeah, that's essentially, like, one of the biggest challenges is for me, especially being so emotional, is just being like, hey, this is literally work. This is about work. We all have a common goal. We're just trying to get it done. You need to ask those tough questions. You need to be in those tough conversations, and just, that's it.
Yeah, and I'm going to digress a little bit just to talk about the Crucial Conversations book, because I feel like we've talked about this quite a bit. So I say, okay, I'm going to just say his name. I'm getting over saying my boyfriend. So yeah. Joey is also reading this for work, and it was just, you were talking about how people get defensive in meetings, and he doesn't read that often, so he has to read it for work. And it's so funny because he's like, oh, this is actually making sense. He's like, I feel like I've never read a book where it's like a help book and they actually like provide value. They're like, because he's like, oh, I was actually doing the other thing. Because I feel like these self-help books, they're like very obvious, So I think we should, to digress, I think we should do an episode though. I asked him, I was like, I want to read it after. Yeah.
And then we should do an episode. That would be such a good episode.
Yeah, so, okay, sorry, I digress. But, okay, awesome. Our little meeting leader telling us all about. But I have one more general question, just about your role. So if someone is looking for this type of role, what traits do they have to be a qualified candidate?
Yeah, I would say definitely heavy on, like, the leadership skills. In my interview, I was kind of asked questions like, how do you deal with delinquent team members? What do you do? What is your first instinct in a stressful situation? Like, how do you deal with conflict? So very much they were trying to test in the interview, like, what kind of a leader I would be like, because I think that if you want to be in, like, a leadership engineering type role, you need to be, like, very even keel and very calm, which is kind of, you may think is kind of contradictory to my chaotic personality, but they're very much like, leadership skills. So I kind of, this is the path or role I chose to take post-grad. I think a lot of it stemmed from, I had a co-op that was project management of facilities, and then I did an internship which was R&D, which was a lot of just running tests and reporting out on data, and I felt like I wanted to be a little bit more engaged in, like, the outcome of a project than just being like doing all these tests and producing outcomes. Like, I wanted to help drive conversations of, like, what we should do next. So that's kind of what I learned from that internship role, and then in my first role post-grad in corporate, I did project management. So, like, I've always just kind of been in this realm. That's not to say that you can't break into this realm if you haven't. I would say if you're someone who is looking for a project engineer, project leadership, project management type role, think of examples of a time that you've, like, led a team to a solution and highlight those on your resume. So, for example, maybe it could be like, led cost reduction initiative to save the company $25,000 per year or something like that. Or like, developed a team of people to improve processes on a manufacturing line or something like that. Like, even if your role isn't specifically a leadership type job, there's always times in our day-to-day that even I'm sure you could speak to as a validation engineer that like you need to lead. Like, you know, part of being an engineer is like, you know, making these engineering judgments and presenting your data to back up your judgments or your calls, and like guiding people in the right direction to like make decisions to produce an outcome essentially. So that was a really long answer to your question, but yeah, any way that you can like show that you're leading a team of people, I would say is pretty valuable experience for someone in this like path of career.
Definitely. Yeah, and that's a good point about the resume. So I think that'll be really helpful to listeners who want to get into this type of role. But I thought, it definitely seems like it's a big focus on communication. And, you know, you said that's one of your main challenges. So you can definitely see that in the discussion. But, okay, also, I lied. This is not my last question. So we're talking about the career projection. So where do you want to go from here? In a few years, where do you see yourself?
See, that is a tough question because when we did our goals episode in January, I told you I was never going to leave my job, and then I left my job and I got a new job. So don't hold me to it. So don't be surprised if it changes. But I don't know. I really find air movement and vacuums interesting, which sounds really funny because you may think it sounds like a listener might think it sounds so boring. But I come from like combined cycle combustion steam turbines, which is essentially like a giant apparatus that produces air movement. Like, that's the way a power plant works, is that, you know, steam runs through a turbine and it
runs
spins
through like that.
Because
up and down. It's like the
they go through
dolphin
like the veins.
Thing on the
Yeah, that's like what the air is doing in a turbine, is it because like all the veins, all the like fan blades, fan sections of a turbine are going opposite directions. That's how it makes it spin, is because the air is being directed through those different veins, and like then it moves a generator which produces power. So like I kind of like was already in that headspace, so I think I talked about that experience obviously a lot in my interview, and I think that's probably why I got placed in this department. I guess I didn't even really mention, but just to briefly touch on, I had 7 interviews, and I interviewed across 6 different departments, and then those department heads came together and decided where I would fit best. So like, based on my interview experiences, they were like, yeah, she would fit working on vacuums. Something that really interests me is like outdoor power equipment, and maybe it's because I worked for Briggs & Stratton, and Briggs & Stratton makes small engines that go into lawnmowers and stuff like that. So maybe like I could see myself wanting to work on lawnmowers.
That also, you talked about, you know, in high school you took that course, right, where you had to take apart. So that, look at you with your little.
It all ties back.
It's all full circle.
I know. I don't know. So we'll see. Like, it's so weird. I'm doing a mentorship program right now. They have MAP at my company, which, do you remember, like, at Miami, they had MAP? Like, MAP. So, and I'm meeting with somebody who's I think he's in the hydraulics group. And he has been in different departments. So a question that he asked me, he was like, what do you want to do in your next 5 years here? And I was like, I don't know. I was just so focused on getting a job here, and I'm just so focused on like trying to figure out what's going on. I never even thought about what I wanted to do next. So I don't know. I don't think I want to be in like a management position yet. I really like being like boots on the ground and like dealing with all this stuff, but we'll see. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I feel like you need to just like do the technical work first before you get into managing type of role, because I feel like that's the best way you manage, if you know what's going on. So
yeah. And then wait, one quick last thing that I just remembered, because you asked about like what qualifications someone could have or someone needs to have to like be in this career field, that I just thought of. I talked about like my social media and the podcast in interviews, which I feel like is kind of a big risk. And when I was asking, like I asked Julie for advice on like what I should say, and she was like, maybe don't mention that. But I was like, what have I got to lose? Like, I already have a job. If they say no because I have a podcast or I'm on social media, then they're a loss. And actually, that I think is probably something that made me stand out in interviews, because that is like a perfect example of leadership. I talked about how I saw a gap in the market of influencing, that there weren't too many women in STEM posting on Instagram and TikTok, and there wasn't really a podcast made for women in STEM, and how we wanted to fill that void and provide value, and like, you know, working with brands and the business side of things, and like having a commitment to something greater than yourself. So, you know, that's another thing. Like, if someone wants to get into the industry, go out on a limb and like think of things that you like do in your personal life that maybe you can relate back to being professional, because people loved that response. And I've talked about how like my manager and the people in my group have been so supportive of the podcast, and they think it's awesome. And it's so different from my previous job because nobody knew that I did it, and it was kind of like a dirty little secret that when people found out about it, it'd be like, "Ooh, I saw you on my TikTok," and now people are just like, "Oh
that,
wow,"
just like that. They're walking in the hallway on the way to the cafeteria. Ooh. They're like, yoo-hoo.
They're like, "I saw you on Instagram," and so like that's
so funny.
That's kind of cool how people are so like, they like think it's cool. They're like, "Oh my god, like you deal on the business side of things of social media, like that's all," like, so I don't know. I just thought I would throw that little tidbit in there that like is something that people probably, maybe if they heard that, you know, interviewing for an engineering position and you bring up the fact that you have a podcast, that might be shocking, but I think that's probably something that helped me in my interview.
Yeah. No, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because I don't know if we talked about this on like a different episode, or if you just told me, you know, on the side. But you were saying that your boss said that he really liked it because it showed that you were doing something else and taking that initiative, and like not just coming home and being kind of, I'm not going to say complacent, but I think he used the words like, "Oh, you just don't come and watch Netflix at home. Like, you're doing something." Yeah. But also, again, I know like talking about social media is kind of voodoo in interviews, but I think it sounds like it, you know, the way you sold it and the way it actually is it helps show that you have good communication. Like, you clearly are a good people person, you know, you have that experience. I think that kind of helped. So, I mean, you can't have a podcast if you can't communicate, so.
Right? So. And then, like, and I feel like it showed, like, so many skills, like, good public speaking skills and good, like, I told them how we interview people, other women, and that shows that, like, you can connect with someone that you don't know, like, pretty in a short period of time. You're personable. So, like, yeah, just like you said, all of these things. And like you mentioned on your episode with validation engineering, there's always a way that you can spin it. And, you know, if you word it the right way, you can definitely use that experience and other experience like to your advantage when you're applying to jobs and interviewing to jobs.
Definitely. Yeah, because I feel like, okay, last point on that, and then we'll ask the big and end all question, unless you have anything to add, which I'll ask. Yeah. But again, it's like planning like the episodes, like you have to plan. So again, you can just to give people who are listening like ideas for what to talk about. Like, you have to plan out your social media posts, plan out those brand deals, all that stuff. Like, plan out the episodes. So spin it that way, girlies.
Yeah. And if there's anything else, like, I don't know, but another big one comes to mind is like volunteering. I don't know, like, figure out ways if you want to get into a leadership position and you have no opportunities at your current role, which I would challenge you to present this to your manager, because I'm sure there are ways that they can figure out for you to be a leader or help lead an initiative. But if you volunteer somewhere, like, figure out a way that you can, you know, show leadership in that, and then like spin it into a professional sense, and like think of all the things that like someone in a leadership engineering role might require, like managing multiple schedules, having time commitments, working with difficult people. Like, there's always something that you can do outside, like I would encourage you not to just like sit there and be like, well, it's not available at my company, so like I'm screwed. Like, no, go out and like look for ways to be creative and like opportunities to like, I don't know, partake in that experience that you're looking for.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, before we ask our last question, do you have anything else you want to add? Anything we didn't touch on? Anything about your whole career path experience, even your other role?
No, I don't know. I just, if you would have told me, it's pretty cool. I really do like my company, and I love my position, even if it is, like, really stressful and everything. Like, I think if you would have told little Libby at her co-op that she would be working at this company, like, I think I would be like, you're lying. Like, there's no way. Like, this, I'm just... this isn't really providing value to our listeners, but I'm just personally, like, so proud that I got this job because it is, like, such a prominent company to work for in the Milwaukee area. And yeah, if you have any questions, reach out to me. I actually had somebody on my Instagram DM me. She figured out where I worked and she wanted tips for interviewing, and she got the job, and she was like, well, I start on this day, do you want to get lunch? And I was like, oh, yes, oh my god,
that's awesome. Oh my gosh.
I know.
We have to ask her how you gotta tell me how it goes.
Even
though I don't know
so
her.
Yeah,
let us know.
Yeah,
let us know.
if you guys listening, like, I don't know if you need any advice or anything like that, like, my email is always available. My DMs, I try to get back to them even though I have a lot of requests stacked up, but yeah, I think it's just probably good to touch base with other people. And if you're listening and I'm in a role that you aspire or hope to be in one day, reach out to me. Like, definitely try to surround yourself with people who are where you want to get. So that's my last 2 cents for this episode.
Amazing. Well, would you do us the honor and let us know what you would tell your younger self knowing what you know now?
Yes. Oh my god, so many things. I'm stressed out now, but I was even more stressed out when I was in college, and like I think we talked about this on the episode, the audio that we weren't able to post, but people are always like, oh my god, how did you get through engineering school? And it's like, my answer to you is in such an unhealthy way. Like, I would go not sleeping for like 72 hours on end. Like, we would go out and then we would come back at like midnight or something and stay up to study because we were trying to like have a social life but also be engineers, and like it wasn't like out of the ordinary for like at least once a week for me to pull 1 or 2 all-nighters. So I think like my advice to my younger self would be, I don't know, like I feel like that I needed to do that because it's not like I was getting straight A's. Like, I was still struggling to like pass my classes. So I don't think I can provide any advice to my younger self in that regard. But on like the career side of things, I was so stressed out about like my GPA, and I would put myself down, and I would be like, I am a failure. What am I doing in engineering? Like, I'm a disgrace to an engineering student. Like, I'm such an idiot. Like, I would be so harsh on myself, and I'd be like, why can't you just like get a better GPA? This is ridiculous. It's not that hard. And like, I wish my younger self would have just given me a little bit of grace, and known the company that I was working for now and be like, girl, chill. Like, you will figure it all out. It's okay to like be where you're at in life and like be doing the best that you possibly can be doing. Like, if that's your best, just aim to put your like best foot forward every single day, and like don't stress out about like career opportunities because they will come to you. And I remember sophomore year of college when I didn't have an internship that summer because of being in Theta Tau. We've talked about how like competitive Theta Tau was. I literally was crying to my mom, and she was like, girl, you need to calm down. And I was like, Mom, you don't understand. If I don't get an internship sophomore year, I'm never going to get a job. And she was like, but you will, so calm down. And so yeah, really roundabout way of saying that the advice I'd give to my younger self is just for her to take a Xanax or just chill out or something, because I was way too on edge. I mean, who knows, like, maybe I wouldn't be where I am today without being so freaking stressed out all the time, but like we did it, and I did not need to be crying my sophomore year over not having a summer internship.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at us, just relatable. And that's why we did this. That's why we're stressing these points. So yeah. So amazing. Yep. Amazing. Yep. Thank you so much.
Not to say we're not stressed out now. I mean, yeah, we probably still need to calm down, but go.
I think so,
At least now I'm aware. At least now I'm like, oh yes, I am a very stressed out person. And I can be like, Brett, I'm going to be stressed out this week. But before I was just like, my life is going to be over because I was so stressed out. Now I'm just like, nah. It'll work itself out.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for telling us how it is to be a project engineer. I think this was super helpful in general, just like hearing about your whole little industry, and I think it's so fun being on the other side, like interviewing. Like I know that we both interview, but like it's kind of fun to again like have this dynamic. Like I had so much fun when you were interviewing me. So
yeah, awesome. And I feel like now hopefully we both actually know what we do. Like we've never walked through and asked each other these questions, and also like people listening, since we do know each other in real life, I feel like we have conversations about like what our day-to-day is, but then I always forget that people listening don't know us in real life. That sounds so silly, but yeah, hopefully this like, now you guys know what we do for our jobs.
Yes. And if you want to keep listening, make sure to go follow our Instagram, where you can check out our bio and join our Facebook group, because we talked about our resume stuff, and you talked about how you helped someone get a role at your company. Someone actually emailed me. We have a nice little like network spreadsheet built out. What else? What other housekeeping are we?
Yeah, it's a whole network of women in STEM. So if you're feeling, especially if you're feeling alone at your job, if you are literally the only woman in engineering, so glad that you're listening to this podcast, but also join the Facebook group, because you know what? There's a lot of us in there and you're not alone. I guess anything else, just make sure you leave us a 5-star rating and review if you guys like this podcast, and share it on your social media. Lexi, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me at Engineer Lexi on Instagram and TikTok. And where can they find you?
You can find me at Libby Beyond the Label on Instagram and TikTok. And then I don't typically say this, but I'll put this in the show notes. My email address is libbybeyondthelabel@gmail.com. So if you're listening to this episode and you have even more questions, feel free to email me. Email is probably a better way to reach out to me than Instagram DM, just because my DMs overwhelm me. They're like a black hole. I feel so bad for people who reach out to me, and it's a request because I really probably won't even see it. So email me if you have more questions. And then you guys can find the podcast, Instagram, and TikTok at My Best Friends and Engineer.
And we are on YouTube at BFE Podcast.
Wow, I feel like this was a whirlwind of an episode, and I think we're ready to close it out.
Yeah, this was
I need to get some water. I can't
Don't
talk anymore.
Yeah, after you after I felt like I was like, did I make any sense? I was like, did
I don't think I did.
No, you did so well. No, it was good. It was good. But amazing.
Right.
Well, I'm
Lead
Lexi.
us away. And I'm Libby.
Sorry. Or you let. Oh God. And thanks for listening. To My Best Friends and Engineer.
Oh well, okay. You know what? It's a great episode.
It's okay. Cut us some slack. It's a manic Monday.
It's a manic Monday. Isn't the song just another manic Monday?